Is it going?
Bob.
Editor of Inside the Vatican magazine, and here we are outside the Vatican on the night of May 2nd, 2025, just 5 days before the conclave to elect a new pope. Pope Francis died more than a week ago now. And the square is quiet tonight. The crescent moon is rising over the piazza. The world's journalists are gathering here. And I have with me Deborah Tomlinson, my colleague. She runs the pilgrimages that we have. And we're going to talk about the conclave and the events of the day live from Rome, Italy, about 8:30 in the evening on May 2nd. Hi, Deb.
Hi, Bob. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's sort of like being at the center of the world.
Well, all roads lead to Rome.
That's right.
So many people here from the Universal Church. Anna, you can pan around, and so everyone can get a sense of what St. Peter's Piazza looks like this evening. People walking up and down Via Conciliazione. Of course, we have the big scaffolding there. That's where CNN broadcasts from. Anderson Cooper has his booth up there. And of course, as Anna hands down Via Conciliazione, you can see the pilgrim walk for the year of the Jubilee. And the pilgrims walk up the center of that street to the door of St. Peter's to walk through until we go to the arena.
So we had some news today here in Rome. There was a statement made by one of the cardinals summarizing what the cardinals have been saying. They've been meeting every morning. More than 150 cardinals are meeting. There are 133 who will be voting. The others are over age 80 and won't be voting. They will start to vote on Wednesday, May 7th, just in 5 days. But they said that unity has emerged as the key concern of the cardinals.
But that's what we've been working on for so many years.
Well, that's what we also believe. We were deeply affected by the prayer Jesus prayed. May they all be one. Ut unum sint in Latin, that they may be one. He wanted his followers to stay united and not to be fighting and bickering and disunited. And it's not so easy trying to hold the family together. That's sort of the chief concern of these cardinals right now, to find a pope who can be a father of a family of more than 1 billion people.
Exactly. We met with Cardinal Parolin about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he talked about that. We had a private meeting with him in his office, and he spoke about the concern. This is, of course, before Pope Francis passed away, with the church and the divide, and that he felt it was so important as we look forward for the next 10 years, 20 years, that the two sides, or the main fractions inside the church, as he said, need to be dialogue, speaking to one another.
Yeah. So we don't want the church to split. And they said that in the meetings today. Cardinal Parolin said that. But what we had also in the last day or two is evidence that there are some knives coming out. There's some low blows being thrown. I'm sad to say that there were reports in a local Roman paper, run, of course, by Italians, that Cardinal Parolin had fainted in one of the sessions 2 days ago because he was under such strain and medical people were called. But there was a press office communique this morning, and Matteo Bruni, the press director, actually appeared in front of all the journalists. He said the story is not true. He said it's invented. So that's the first bit of news I wanted to tell people.
Why would they do that, Bob?
Well, they like to eliminate people by telling false things about them. I think we've seen that in America.
So I think we were struck because we're hearing that unity is so important. And apparently he told us himself he felt unity was one of the most important things. How
Well,
does that strike you?
well, there's a desire for a kind of purity which drives people to try to get rid of the inconveniences on both sides, and they want the pure church. It's a temptation, I think, all of us feel at times. But a lot of us also are not perfect. And so we need to come back and be repentant and forgiven. We can't just be excluded. There's some people who want to kind of pare the church down to a small, pure community. And this is a debate that we really have in the church. How can we hold together and be a sign of the love of Jesus Christ in a world which is also very divided politically, economically, ideologically? These are the things that are on my mind, and I think on the mind of the Cardinals.
Well, we had some more news today.
What was
Something happened up there.
Oh,
The Vatican Fire Department, right up there, the smokestack was installed for the Sistine Chapel. And we saw the firemen come out. I think there were about 7 or 8 of them. And
so
they
they're,
put together that smokestack.
so they're really getting ready for the sign of the white smoke. Till they elect the Pope, it'll be black smoke. They even put some little powder in there to make sure it's black. When they finally have a 2/3 majority, which ought to be 89 votes. So the vote of 89 cardinals will choose the next Pope, the successor of Peter, 267th Pope. And they prepare the stove for the ashes of the ballots, which will be beginning, probably the first ballot will be the evening of May 7th, next Wednesday. And probably they will most likely not elect a Pope and have 5 to 10 votes going to 10 or 15 different candidates. They almost call it an introduction just to see that each cardinal who has some qualities and some supporters at least gets a few votes. And then they will try to sense which candidate really could coalesce a 2/3 majority, which would create unity. And you need a large number of people to agree out of the 133 cardinals who would be in there, uh, who the next pope ought to be. Now, I think we have some questions.
Well, we do, but what time do we anticipate that first vote to be? So what time do we expect for the first bit of smoke to come?
Normally, there's a mass in the morning, the mass for the opening of the conclave. That will take us up, I think, until noontime and then lunch. And then there's the swearing in of all the cardinals. They take an oath to have no other concern than the best man to serve and not to tell any secrets, to do it entirely in secrecy. And they swear an oath to that, and each of them swears the oath. And that's for 133 of them. That'll be at least an hour and a half, maybe longer, maybe 2 or 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Then they say, now we are ready to vote. That would most likely be 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And if anything delays that, they might not get to a vote that first day. Most likely 4:35, they start to vote. And they sit and they put down illegal, I elect, they put the name. Those votes are collected. They are pronounced, they're counted and pronounced. That'd probably be about 6 o'clock on May 7th. And it would be first
Time. So
home time,
12 noon Eastern time.
12 noon Eastern time in America.
So we may see smoke about 12 noon Eastern time next Wednesday,
Yes.
anywhere from 12 noon to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
You're thinking. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, these are just general
Right.
predictions. Something could change.
So we have some questions.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions while you're watching, please put them in chat. And our office from the US will send them to us here. Okay, let me go to the first question. First question for you, Bob, is Pizza Balla a good candidate?
Okay, you're referring to the Patriarch of Jerusalem, which is already a very high post in the church. That was the very first see, really, of all the patriarchal sees in the church, because Jerusalem was where Jesus was crucified and where he resurrected. The Pietro Pizzavalla is from northern Italy in Bergamo. He's a Franciscan priest. He's a very studious man. He knows a number of languages, and he's tall, and he's a cheerful man, but very solemn at the same time. I know that's a little bit contradictory, but he's above all a man of courage. And when the war broke out between Hamas and Israel, and hundreds of Israelis were taken prisoner by Hamas, he spoke publicly, and he said, I offer myself, take me, I will be the hostage, let every other hostage go. This is a man who would give up his own life for his neighbor. And therefore, all the cardinals know this, and I don't think it's impossible that they will all find that this man would be a worthy successor of Peter and the worthy vicar of Jesus Christ.
Next question from Michael. Michael asks, does this conclave feel any different than the last one?
You know, it does feel different. Yeah, I mean, and the last two, of course, I was here in 2005 and in 2013. In 2005, Pope Benedict was elected, and I actually knew him quite well. So I was very excited and happy when he stepped out on the balcony. And then the 2013 conclave, when Francis was elected, it was not following the death of a pope.
Yeah.
For the first time in centuries.
We had several weeks.
Yeah. So the Pope Benedict announced on February 11th, 2013, that he would resign on February 28th. So all of February was filled with preparations for an election with still living pope, unprecedented in church history. And then in early March, they had the conclave, and it was March 13th that Pope Francis was elected on the second day. So this somehow seems a more serene process, and it's a process where it's very clear that they want to be as careful and as prayerful as they can be to choose someone that can be a unifier, and they probably want to have a character who brings together characteristics of Pope John Paul II from Poland, of Pope Benedict from Germany, the more professor Pope, and Pope Francis, who reached out to the ends of the earth, to the poorest people. So they're trying to find someone who will have all those characteristics. Yeah.
Here's a good question. It's something that we were talking about today with some of our colleagues here in Rome. Honeybee. Honeybee asks, how hotly debated do you think this election truly is among the cardinals? We were talking with some of our friends today, and she was pointing out something that I thought was pretty important. It seems like the cardinals are all together. They're all together with the hope of finding the next right man pope. And so there seems to be a unity in that desire, but there seems to be, of course, there's different ideas and thoughts about what the concerns are right now for the church in the next 10 years. And each man has their own thoughts about that. But they were pointing out that they felt like the laity was more divided than the cardinals. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I do think that there are forces, ideological, economic, and political, do divide us. And if we are all Catholics, we all have a certain love of Mother Church, and we therefore have a love of our fellow Catholics worldwide. But there's always the tendency to drive us into political categories: progressive, conservative, north, south, rich, east, west. So the great message of Christ was a universal message. If I am lifted up, I will draw all men. And we go beyond ethnic and ideological divisions. But they do creep into the church, and they affect different members of the church. And so the cardinals are trying to transcend these divisions. But there obviously are forces in the world which would like the church to be divided and perhaps even split apart.
So we're getting a few questions on how many rounds of black smoke do you think we're going to have before we have white smoke? And could we have white smoke with the first ballot?
I doubt we'll have it on the first ballot. I would say very unlikely. But now, if it does happen, I'll be proven to be an unreliable foreteller. I do believe that this time, I do think that in the days before the conclave, there could develop a sense of consensus. As they speak together, one cardinal stands up and says, I'm concerned about this, and I feel strongly about this, and I want to underline this. And the other cardinals look at him and they say, that man is the material that can lead us. And so they could coalesce and choose someone because they've been meeting a few days already. Today is Friday, May 2nd. There will be some meetings on Monday and on Tuesday. They could enter the conclave on Wednesday, and possibly there could be white smoke on the first ballot. They could say, we know who we want. But most likely there's 5 or 6 or 10 very, very wonderful men who seem to be the type of person who could lead the church. And it will take some voting to see whether that has inspired the cardinals to vote for one or the other. And then it will get down to 2 or 3. But if the 2 or 3 don't reach 89 votes, 2/3, it could turn to someone who's not been voted for at all at the beginning. They could say, well, we couldn't do it with these sort of human categories. And they may feel the wind of the Holy Spirit say, it's actually this man, maybe the holiest among us, who's not well known. So finally, someone will step out and all of us will say, who's that?
We were speaking with one of the cardinals last week, and he says it's a matter of a few things, but one consideration is the man capable? And if he's capable, is he willing? And then it's the other way. Is if he's willing, is he capable?
I mean, those are good questions because I know that there are some that would say, I don't want to be. And there's a passage in scripture which says that Jesus would take Peter at the end of his life as he was an old man. When you are old, I will take you where you do not want to go. And an old cardinal may feel humanly, I would love to teach and I would love to be an example of faith to the people, but I'm so tired. But if he's chosen, I think God gives the strength. I think miracles occur in these corridors.
Well, then leads to the next question. Somebody would like to know how much info about the conclave was released publicly after the pope was chosen.
You know, officially none.
So let's talk about the last conclave. What dribblings of information did we hear after?
Well, that Cardinal Scola had received a number of votes. Some people thought he'd actually been elected the Cardinal of Milan. And that the votes for Pope Francis, Cardinal Bergoglio, were rising. And at the end of the second day, they had a little confusion in the balloting. The 2 ballots were stuck together. I don't even know exactly how this news filtered out of the Congress, but the Cardinal Ray, actually, who's 91 now or 92, he said this invalidates this vote because there's an uncertainty about this ballot stuck to another one. And they voted again. And that's when Bergoglio was elected.
So then how do we know that's even true?
You know, in Rome, you're never sure until the end of your life. Whether you've heard all the stories that are true, or whether you've just been living in a series of half-truths. And it's a consensus that emerges. You talk to the other journalists, like the story of Cardinal Parolin fainting. I think that story was in Mali. And the fact that it went out into the world, nevertheless, like mud on a wall, it leaves its effect. So maybe in future centuries, there will be some little record that some cardinal kept in his diary. And I think there are from conclaves decades ago, which says this cardinal or that cardinal received votes. And then the Pope himself can derogate from the rule of secrecy. And he said, John the 23rd said he and Cardinal Arcadiani, Armenian cardinal, were like two peas in a pot, boiling and bouncing to the top. And finally he came to the top. So he revealed who the two candidates were at that conclave in 1958.
And so it's beginning. Only a few days left as we prepare for the conclave. It's quiet right now in Rome. We had a holiday here yesterday, the feast of St. Joseph the Worker, and we were all commenting how quiet it was today. I think they took a bridge holiday.
Yes, many people took from Thursday, so they took Friday and Monday as
Right.
their day, as their special holiday days during the year, and they made a 5-day weekend.
Right. So it was quiet, and we should have a somewhat quiet weekend, but I think a lot of people will be coming in now.
Yeah.
And so we prepare for the conclave. We will be doing live streaming every evening at this time. So please join us and put your questions in or send them in to the office at US office at insidethevatican.com. And we hope to answer as many questions as we can each evening. Also, we have a few spots left on our June pilgrimage to Italy, Journey Towards the Face of Christ, where we go to Assisi, Florence, Norcia, Loreto, San Giovanni Rotondo, St. Michael's Cave, Lanciano, Manipello, and Bob, then we come to Rome. And we stay inside the Vatican. So
Just
with us, we have only, I think, 2 seats left, and we would love to have you join us. You can go to InsideTheVaticanPilgrimages.com, and we hope to see you on pilgrimage. If not, we hope to have you join us tomorrow night. Thank you.
thank you, everyone.